My name is Evelyn Moore. I'm 31 years old, and I didn't know my life was already being rewritten behind my back when I stood in our kitchen, hands shaking, staring at 3 grainy ultrasound images laid out on the counter like sacred artifacts. Triplets. That was the word Daniel used. My boyfriend. My partner of 4 years. The man I thought I was building a future with. 3 heartbeats, he said softly, like he was afraid the sound of the words might break them. Can you believe it? I remember sitting down hard on the kitchen chair because my knees stopped working. We had been trying for a baby for over a year. Doctors, charts, injections, timed intimacy that stripped the romance right out of sex. I'd cried in bathroom stalls at work after yet another negative test. Daniel had held me and said it would happen when it was meant to. So when he told me there were 3, my brain short-circuited. I laughed. Then I cried. Then I cried harder because I was laughing at the same time. This is insane, I said. We need everything. 3 cribs, a bigger place, a car that doesn't die on the highway. Daniel smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. We'll figure it out, he said quickly. We always do. That night, I downloaded pregnancy apps, plural. I read about multiples until my phone died in my hand. I called my mother at midnight. I imagined tiny socks drying on our balcony. For exactly 48 hours, I lived inside that joy. Then the feeling started. That low hum under my skin. The one that whispered, something isn't right. The first red flag was Daniel's phone. He'd always been careless with it, leaving it face up, unlocked, tossing it onto the couch. Suddenly, it never left his pocket. Password changed, screen always down. He'd step into the bathroom to answer calls and come back with his jaw tight. Work stuff, he said. Stress. I told myself not to be paranoid. The second red flag was Lena, Daniel's ex-girlfriend. They dated briefly years before we met. Clean breakup, he'd said. She was part of his extended friend circle. I'd met her dozens of times, always polite, always just there. Now she was everywhere. Doctor appointments, baby store visits, texting Daniel constantly. She'd show up with lists and opinions and say things like, the babies respond better when you talk to them. The babies, not your babies, not their babies, just the babies. The third red flag was the pregnancy app. Oh, I forgot to invite you, Daniel said one night when I asked why I couldn't see updates. I'll send it later. He never did. I tried to tell myself it was hormones, stress, fear. Then came last Tuesday. I got home early from work. Daniel wasn't there. Lena was supposedly at a prenatal yoga class. Her laptop was open on the kitchen counter. I wasn't snooping. I swear that on whatever future I thought I had, I just wanted to check the weather. But the email notification preview was already there. DNA, test results attached. Prenatal paternity confirmation. My heart didn't race. It stopped. I clicked. The PDF loaded slowly, like it wanted me to suffer. 3 fetuses tested. Probability of paternity, 99.9999%. Father, Daniel Carter. I read it again. And again. The date hit me last. 3 weeks earlier. He knew. My hands went numb. I sat there for an hour without moving, the room tilting slightly like I was underwater. Then survival kicked in. I took photos, forwarded emails, screenshotted everything. And then I saw the rest. Messages between Daniel and Lena, her asking if the results could be wrong, him reassuring her. And then the message that burned itself into my brain. Just play along for now. Evelyn is too excited to question anything. After they're born, we'll figure out how to tell her. I need her insurance and financial stability. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I closed the laptop. And I smiled when Daniel came home that night and kissed my forehead. Because if they were going to lie to me, I was going to make sure the truth arrived loudly. If betrayal had a sound, it would be silence. The quiet kind that settles into your bones and teaches you how to breathe differently, how to move through rooms without making waves, how to smile without letting your eyes participate. For the next 7 days, I became an actress, an award-worthy one. I played the role of the devoted future mother with precision. I rubbed my stomach absent-mindedly, even though there was nothing growing there. I talked about nursery colors and sleep schedules. I said our babies with a softness that made Daniel relax, made Lena's shoulders drop just enough to tell me she believed the lie was still holding. Inside, I was already gone. The planning week before the baby shower was chaos disguised as celebration. Daniel's entitlement exploded like a fever. "We need a bigger car," he said one morning over coffee, scrolling through listings. "Something safe, a full-size SUV. Triplets aren't fitting into your little sedan." My sedan, paid off, reliable, suddenly insufficient. "That's a lot of money," I said carefully. He frowned. "Babies are expensive, Evelyn. We can't be cheap." Cheap. I swallowed the word and nodded. That afternoon, Lena sent a spreadsheet. A literal spreadsheet. Projected costs. Cribs, diapers, formula. Daycare estimates that made my chest tighten. At the bottom, highlighted in yellow, insurance and primary provider, Evelyn. No discussion. No question. Just an assumption. Daniel's mother called 2 days later. "You're carrying a big responsibility now," she said, voice tight with expectation. 3 lives. You need to think long term. Promotions, extra income. Daniel's already stressed. I almost laughed. Instead, I said, "I understand." That night, Daniel crawled into bed and wrapped an arm around me for the first time in weeks. "You've been amazing," he murmured. "I don't know what I'd do without you." The words slid off me like oil. On Thursday, Lena showed up unannounced with tiny matching outfits. 3 of everything. She held them up, glowing. I couldn't help myself. "They're adorable," I said, and meant it in the saddest way possible. I watched her press the fabric to her chest, eyes soft, like she was already mourning something she knew she'd lose. Or maybe she was just greedy. That night, Daniel tried to touch me. Sudden affection. Sudden urgency. "I miss you," he whispered against my neck. "Everything's changing so fast." I let him kiss my shoulder. Let him believe it was working. "We'll be a family," he said. A real one. I stared at the ceiling and thought about DNA percentages. Friday came too quickly. The baby shower was set for Saturday afternoon at his parents' house. 50 guests. Caterers. Decorations so elaborate they bordered on absurd. Someone had rented a massive outdoor screen. I suggested a slideshow earlier in the week. "A journey," I'd said brightly. "From trying to now." Daniel loved it. "So thoughtful," he told everyone. Friday night, Lena cornered me in the kitchen while Daniel took a call outside. "You okay?" she asked softly. I met her eyes. "Why wouldn't I be?" She hesitated. For a second, just a second, guilt flickered across her face. Then it hardened. "You're strong," she said. "Not everyone could handle this." "You're right," I replied. Not everyone could. She smiled, relieved, mistaking my calm for compliance. That night, Daniel curled against me and talked about houses, neighborhoods, schools. I let him talk. I didn't tell him I'd already spoken to a lawyer. I didn't tell him I'd organized every email chronologically. I didn't tell him the slideshow was already finished. Saturday arrived bright and cruel. The backyard was a pastel explosion. Pink, blue, neutral tones everywhere. Banners that read 3 times the love. I wore a simple dress, nothing dramatic, nothing that would distract. Daniel kissed my cheek for the cameras. Lena stayed close to him, too close. The gifts piled up, 3 high chairs, 3 strollers. People laughed about how lucky we were. I waited. After the gifts, Daniel clinked his glass. "Evelyn put together something special," he announced. "A little look at our journey." Applause. I stood, heart steady, hands dry. "Thank you all for being here," I said, "for celebrating what you believe is the beginning of our family." Daniel's smile faltered, just slightly. I connected my laptop. The first slides were safe. Photos, clinic visits, that first positive test. Then the title slide appeared. The truth about fatherhood. The backyard went silent. The DNA results filled the screen. Clear. Clinical, Unarguable. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Lena went pale. Daniel took a step back, like the ground had shifted. "This is a mistake," his mother said sharply. I clicked. The emails appeared, highlighted, time-stamped. The line about insurance and financial stability enlarged until it was impossible to ignore. Daniel's mouth opened. Closed. "Explain," I said calmly into the microphone. "Explain to everyone how you plan to use me to raise children you knew weren't mine." Chaos erupted. Someone cried. Someone shouted. Lena sank into a chair. Daniel stammered, "Evelyn, please." "Please what?" I asked. "Lie better?" I turned off the screen. "I won't be on any birth certificates," I said. "I won't be financially responsible. And I won't be manipulated." I set the microphone down and walked away while the truth burned everything behind me. I didn't leave the house immediately. I wish I could say I walked out with my head high, sunlight cutting through the chaos behind me like a cinematic ending. The truth is, my legs felt heavy, like gravity had doubled. I made it as far as the edge of the backyard before Daniel's mother grabbed my arm. "You can't just do this," she hissed, her face flushed, eyes darting to the guests, still frozen in clusters. "This is a family matter. You're humiliating us." I looked down at her hand on my wrist. Slowly, deliberately, I removed it. "No," I said quietly. "This is a truth matter. The humiliation came from lies, not exposure." Behind her, the party had fractured into noise. Daniel was talking rapidly to his father, hands shaking, voice rising and falling like he was trying to talk his way out of a burning building. Lena sat rigid in a white folding chair, one hand pressed to her mouth, the other gripping the armrest so hard her knuckles had gone white. Someone handed her water. She didn't drink it. One of Daniel's cousins muttered, "I knew something was off," just loud enough to be heard. That was when the questions started flying. "Is it real? How long did you know? Are you sure the test?" I turned back toward the crowd. "I'm sure," I said. "It was done 3 weeks ago, discreetly, without my knowledge. I found out by accident." Daniel finally broke free and rushed toward me. "Evelyn, please," he said, grabbing my elbow. "Let's talk inside. This isn't the place." I met his eyes. They were full of panic, not regret. "This was exactly the place," I said. "You just didn't expect me to control the narrative." Lena stood abruptly, swaying. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this," she whispered. I laughed once. Sharp, humorless. "Was there a version where it wasn't ugly?" I asked. "Where I smiled, signed papers, paid bills, and found out later when it was harder to leave?" Daniel's father spoke then. His voice was low, dangerous. "Is this true?" he demanded of his son. "Did you know?" Daniel opened his mouth, closed it. That silence answered everything. A woman near the gift table burst into tears. Someone else started arguing loudly about how kids need stability. Daniel's mother rounded on me again. "They're innocent," she snapped. "Those babies didn't ask for this." "I agree," I said, "which is why they deserve parents who don't build their lives on fraud." Lena made a choking sound. "I was scared," she said, voice breaking. "I didn't think—" "No," I interrupted. "You thought, you planned, you calculated, you decided I was useful." Daniel finally snapped. "Stop," he shouted. "This is out of control." I looked at him. Really looked. At the man I'd trusted, loved, planned with. "You lost control the moment you assumed I wouldn't leave," I said. "You confused kindness with weakness." He tried again, softer this time. "I never meant to hurt you." "You meant to use me," I replied. "That's worse." Someone called out, "So what now?" I answered without hesitation. "Now," I said, "I walk away, and you deal with the consequences of your choices without me cushioning the fall." Daniel's sister stepped forward, eyes blazing. "You cheated," she said flatly to him, "and you tried to trap her." Daniel's mother spun on her. "Don't take her side." "I'm taking the side of reality," his sister shot back. "You raised him better than this. Or at least, I thought you did." The crowd began to disperse, conversations turning sharp and judgmental. Gifts were abandoned. Decorations sagged in the heat. Lena slid down in her chair and began to sob openly now, shoulders shaking. Daniel took a step toward her, then stopped, looking back at me like he expected something. Forgiveness. Collapse. Negotiation. I gave him none of it. I picked up my purse. As I walked toward the driveway, Daniel followed. "Evelyn," he said desperately, "we can fix this. We can figure something out. You don't have to leave." I stopped. Turned. "There is no we," I said. "There hasn't been for weeks. You just forgot to tell me." He reached for my hand. I stepped back. "I won't raise children conceived through betrayal," I continued. "I won't be your safety net. I won't be your insurance plan. And I won't be your excuse." His voice cracked. "You're being heartless." I tilted my head. "No," I said. "I'm being honest. There's a difference." Behind him, Lena wailed something about being alone. Daniel looked torn for half a second. Then he turned toward her. That was all I needed to see. I got in my car. I didn't cry until I was 3 blocks away. Even then, it wasn't the sobbing kind. It was the quiet kind. The kind that comes when something finally, irreversibly ends. My phone started buzzing before I reached the highway. Calls, messages, voicemails. I ignored them all. By the time I pulled into a grocery store parking lot, I felt empty, not broken. Just cleared out. I checked my reflection in the rearview mirror. My eyes were red, but steady. "You did the right thing," I whispered to myself, even if it hurt, especially because it hurt. I drove home alone. And for the first time in weeks, the silence didn't feel like dread. It felt like space. The fallout didn't explode all at once. It crept in quietly, like smoke seeping under doors, filling every corner of my life, whether I invited it or not. By Monday morning, Daniel was gone. I came home Sunday night to find half his things missing: clothes, shoes, his laptop, the photo of us from our last vacation, lifted off the shelf but left face down on the table, like an apology he didn't have the courage to speak out loud. I didn't text him. I didn't ask where he'd gone. I already knew. Lena moved back into his parents' house that same night. I found out because Daniel's mother left me a voicemail, equal parts accusation and desperation. "You've destroyed this family," she said. "You could have handled this privately. Now look at the mess." I deleted it without replying. Tuesday morning, a letter arrived from a lawyer. Not mine. Daniel's. The subject line alone made me laugh, a short, breathless sound that startled even me. Formal request for support and co-parenting discussion. I read it twice, slowly. They were asking for continued housing support, monthly financial assistance, coverage of medical expenses, emotional distress compensation, all for children that weren't mine, all based on a relationship built on intentional deceit. I forwarded the letter to my lawyer with a single line: "Please enjoy." He called me within an hour. "They're bluffing," he said, not even bothering to hide his amusement. "They have nothing. No marriage, no engagement, no paternity, and plenty of evidence of fraud." Fraud. The word felt heavy and satisfying. That afternoon, Daniel posted a long, emotional message on social media. He didn't name me, but he didn't have to. He talked about fear, about mistakes, about how some people abandon others when things get hard, about 3 innocent lives that deserved stability. The comments were split. Some people praised his vulnerability, some attacked him, and some tagged me directly. I didn't respond, but my lawyer did. He posted the DNA results in the comments. Clear, unedited, time-stamped, with a simple caption, "Context matters." The post was gone within an hour. So was Daniel's account. By Wednesday, Lena tried a different tactic. She showed up at my office. Security called me down when she refused to leave the lobby. She looked smaller than I remembered. Puffy eyes, no makeup, one hand pressed protectively over her stomach like a shield. "Please," she said when she saw me. "I just need 5 minutes." I didn't step closer. "You have 30 seconds, I replied. She started crying immediately. "I'm scared," she said. "Daniel can't do this alone. His parents are furious. They're talking about forcing a court paternity test. I don't have anywhere else to go. That sounds overwhelming, I said calmly, but it's not my problem. She blinked, stunned. You can't just abandon us, she whispered. I met her gaze. You abandon honesty, I said. This is the consequence. She tried to reach for my arm. Security stepped in before she could. That night, Daniel called. Blocked numbers. Voicemails. I messed up, he said in one. I know that, but you don't have to ruin all of us. I listened to it once, then deleted it. The escalation came fast after that. Lena filed a claim attempting to list me as a co-parent for insurance purposes. The insurance company called to confirm. I sent them the DNA test and a letter from my lawyer. They flagged the account. Insurance fraud. An investigation opened. That was the moment everything shifted. Daniel's parents, who had spent weeks blaming me, turned their attention inward. They demanded a court-ordered paternity test. They hired their own attorney, not to protect Lena, to protect themselves. The court confirmed what we already knew. Daniel was the biological father of all 3 babies. The judge didn't sugarcoat it. Actions have consequences, he said. Financial support begins immediately. Daniel panicked. I can't afford that, he protested. The judge didn't blink. Then you should have considered that before engaging in unprotected sex and deception, he replied. Support is set at $2,400 a month, Lena exploded. That's nothing, she shouted. That won't even cover childcare. The judge looked at her evenly. Mr. Carter's income has been reviewed. This amount is already above standard calculation. Be grateful. I wasn't in the courtroom, but my lawyer called me afterward. You're officially free, he said. Legally. Completely. That night, I packed Daniel's remaining belongings into boxes and left them outside the building manager's office. Changed the locks. Changed my passwords. Changed my life. 2 weeks later, Lena tried one last time. She showed up drunk. With Daniel, at midnight. They stood outside my building, swaying, crying, clinging to each other like survivors of a disaster they'd caused themselves. We can make this work, Daniel slurred. All of us. Like a modern family. Lena nodded eagerly. The babies need stability. I stared at them through the intercom. You're suggesting I help raise children you lied to me about, I said, while you live together. Yes, Daniel said, hopeful. I laughed. Then called the police. They left before officers arrived, Lena screaming that I was cruel, heartless, inhuman. I slept better than I had in months. 3 weeks later, the babies were born. 2 boys, 1 girl. I know because Lena texted me photos. They looked exactly like Daniel. Same nose, same dark hair, same cleft in the chin. Look what you're missing, she wrote. I didn't reply. I blocked her. By then, I was already somewhere else. A smaller apartment across town. New routines. New mornings. I wasn't dating yet, but I was healing. And that long enough for the shock to wear off. Short enough that the scars are still tender when you press them. By the time the babies came home from the hospital, the story everyone thought they knew had completely unraveled. Lena moved back in with her parents. Not temporarily, permanently. 3 newborns will do that to a household. Sleep deprivation turned small disagreements into full-blown wars. Her mother complained loudly to anyone who would listen about being trapped with round-the-clock feedings. Her father started spending longer and longer hours outside the house, fixing things that didn't need fixing, just to escape the crying. Daniel paid child support, or rather, it was taken from him. Wage garnishment has a way of making responsibility very real, very fast. 3 jobs, no days off, no room to complain. The court didn't care that he was tired, or overwhelmed, or regretting everything. He saw the babies maybe once a month, not because he didn't want to, but because Lena made sure every visit was a battlefield. Missed calls, changed times, sudden emergencies, a constant reminder that even though he was the father, control was something he'd already lost. His parents cut him off completely. No financial help, no emotional buffer. Whatever trust fund he'd once hinted at, whatever safety net he thought he had, gone. They were humiliated, furious, determined to distance themselves from the mess. They even moved. New city, new social circle, new beginning. I heard all of this secondhand. I didn't ask. I didn't need to. Lena tried to reach me one last time. A new number. A long message. I'm drowning. I can't do this alone. The babies need stability. I'll do anything. Please. I stared at the screen for a long moment. Then I typed back, "Contact Daniel. They're his responsibility." She responded instantly. "He won't answer me anymore." I paused. Then wrote, "That sounds like a you problem." Her reply came fast, angry, desperate. "You're heartless." I smiled softly to myself before responding. Number. I'm just not a doormat. Then I blocked that number too, for good. Around that time, my friend Tom, the lawyer who'd helped me quietly, efficiently, without judgment, stopped by my new apartment with a housewarming gift. It was a frame. Inside it, printed neatly, professionally, was the DNA test. Across the bottom, he'd written, "World's greatest non-mom." I stared at it, then laughed. A real laugh. The kind that shakes loose something you didn't realize you'd been holding on to. "I'm hanging this in the hallway," I said. Tom grinned. "As you should." Life didn't magically turn perfect after that. I still had moments. Standing in a grocery store aisle, seeing baby formula on sale, where a quiet ache surfaced. I had wanted to be a mother. I'd imagined it, planned for it, loved the idea of it. Just not like that. Not through lies. Not through manipulation. Not as someone's financial contingency plan. A month later, I met Ethan. Nothing dramatic. No whirlwind. A coffee shop. A shared outlet. A comment about bad music playing overhead. We talked. Then talked again. On our third date, I told him everything. The triplets. The DNA test. The baby shower. The fallout. I watched his face carefully as I spoke. When I finished, he shook his head slowly and said, "That's not a bullet you dodged. That's a full nuclear missile." I smiled. We're taking things slow, carefully. Honestly. No secrets, no hidden screens, no half-truths disguised as optimism. Last I heard, Lena's social media had gone private after a post asking for donations for diapers and formula exploded in the comments. Someone wrote, "Maybe Daniel can bartend at your pity party." Harsh, cruel, maybe even deserved. The babies are innocent. I've never denied that. I genuinely hope they're okay, but they were never my responsibility. They were the result of choices made by two adults who believed they could outsmart truth, biology, and consequences. As for me, I'm good, better than good. I learned something vital before my name ended up on any birth certificates, before my life became legally entangled in a lie that would have taken 18 years to undo. When someone shows you who they are, when the red flags pile up, when your gut whispers that something is wrong, listen. Believe it the first time, not after a public betrayal, not after 3 babies, not after a life you almost lost trying to be understanding. Peace is expensive, but lies cost far more.